If you want to pop to the next slide, Tina. So we do this work because we are dedicated to the science and the knowledge of what we know about fathers and families. And the council is always had the North Star of children and families, not moms or dads, not moms versus dads, thinking about families very holistically and in the largest definition. But we do know that children and families do better when fathers are positively involved in their children's lives. There's just an overwhelming amount of data that tells us that. And when I say fathers, think of that as a broad definition as well. Fathers, father figures, people who play that role in children's lives. I do always like to add, though, that there is a unique relationship between children and their biological parent, even if that parent was not in their lives. So while we want to support all people who play that role in children's lives, we recognize that there are unique issues that biological father plays. And that happens because we parent differently when we bring our life experiences, and those may be experiences based on, how we were parent. Obviously, they were experiences based on how we were parented, but father-like parenting and mother-like parenting is different. And it builds capacities in children's neural systems. The way brains are wired in the first 3 to 5 years of life is profoundly affected by those two different types of parenting styles present. The other thing that's not on this slide, but I sometimes or most often add, is that it is also critical that we're paying attention to co-parenting relationships, because it's not just how we parent individually, it's how we parent collectively. Whether parents are cohabitating or not, the strife or the challenge between individuals parenting can cause a lot of trauma for children. And so we lift up co-parenting as a North Star for the work as well. And we just completed a study in 2024 that is the state of fatherhood, that attempted to give us a baseline of how fathers show up in our systems. And what we learned is we don't know. There is very, very little data out of most of the ecosystem that surrounds fathers and families, with the exception of child support and corrections, which have a lot of data. Most of our systems, we don't even really measure fathers. We don't measure the types of things that are happening or changing in a positive or negative way for dads. So the last element around what guides this work for us is that fathers really need to have those supports. And we need to remove some barriers for them to get there. They have shared barriers with us, and we need to be aware of those. And that brings us to alternative solutions. But before I go there, I just want to say a couple quick things. As you heard, we are recording, so monitor your thoughts that you share publicly accordingly. We want to thank the Department of Health, who has supported this series for the last 3 years. It has been a tremendously leveraged resource in our state. Over 3,000, as I think I said already, have attended, and they see this as part of their mission around public health and well-being. So we're excited to have them as partners. And as always, thank you to DSHS for their support of the council. So I'm going to have Tina advance the slide, and I'm going to introduce Tina Burnquist and Michael Palencia. Is that how I say your last name, Michael? Did I do
Palencia.
that? Palencia. Tina is the program manager and Alternative Solutions, and Michael is one of the support enforcement officers who is really forward thinking about whole family and how we support whole families. And so they're going to talk to us about child support, but also a deep dive into the Alternative Solutions program. So Tina, I will just turn it over to you. Let people know, please introduce yourself in the chat so we know who you are. That way we know who's in the room. And as you have questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat, and I'll be curating that and asking folks as we go or at the end what questions you have. So please go ahead and introduce yourself, and Tina, you can go ahead and get started.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Is my
Yep,
first
you're
question.
great.
Okay, wonderful. Just checking. Thank you. My name is Tina Burnquist, and as Ann said, I am the program manager of the Alternative Solutions Program. I have been with Division of Child Support now for 17 years. So I have also worked as an SEO on a caseload in a field office as well. And I am excited to be here and share with you. And Mike, I'll let you take over.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Palencia. I am the Support Enforcement Officer for, or Supervisor for, the Alternative Solutions team. I have been with the Division of Child Support now for gonna hit 9 years in exactly a month, June 16th. So worked my my way through and up with the Alternative Solutions. Been very proud to be here and happy to be here with you all today to talk a little bit about child support and some more about our program and what it is we do to work with parents. And like we said, at any time if there's a question, please don't hesitate, raise your hand, put it in chat. We're happy to interact and answer them as we go along. So we want to start off just touching a little bit, kind of just some basic information about child support. We feel it's very important to kind of have a good understanding or a basic understanding about child support. That kind of helps feeds into a little bit about our program and what it is we do and why we do it, why we're here. So to start off, the first thing we want to talk about is just opening a child support case. So what is there to know about opening a child support case? The first thing is there's basically 3 ways a child support case is open. The first one is the custodial parent or the caretaker applies for services, or even the non-custodial parent, the parent who owes child that would be paying child support, opens a case. So that's the first way. There's an application that they would fill out. They would come in and apply. Information is needed, so there would be some information gathering sessions. But that's one way a child support order or a child support case opens in the state of Washington. Another way is a court order is filed in one of our counties through the courts with a pay to the Washington State Support Registry. So if the order states that the non-custodial parent has to pay to the Washington State Support Registry, automatically a child support case is open. So court order is another way. And then as a matter of law, from public assistance programs. So if the parent that has custody of the child applies for state services, in particular TANF, for that child, then a case will open automatically for said child, and the parents in that case would begin. So those are the 3 ways a child support case can be opened in the state of Washington.
So one of the things we wanted to start with as well is talking about some parentage and what that looks like. So in certain situations, the DNA and biology may not matter. Paternity can be established through a legal process, which would be marriage presumption. That means if a child was born while you were legally married, it's assumed that the parent in the marriage is the father. A registered partnership, which is similar to the marriage presumption. A paternity acknowledgement. In the hospital, when a child's born, you're given a paternity acknowledgement to see if you're interested in signing. If it's signed, that means you're acknowledging that that child is yours. And so that legally binds you as a parent. Or a court order. If you guys are in the middle of a process in court and the judge makes the determination for whatever reason that someone is biologically a parent to this child, that's legally binding until that is addressed by a court and undone by a court only. This matters for several different reasons why establishing parenting should matter. One, having a complete medical history. So inherited diseases or things that may carry through medically is known. Dependent benefits. If a parent were to, heaven forbid, pass away, there are Social Security benefits that children are entitled to. Things like that are dependent benefits, VA benefits as well, things like that. Life insurance and inheritance, financial support, including child support, medical support, making sure that the child has all of the medical needs met, and emotional health and personal identity. Anne explained during the beginning some of the studies that show results from having both parents involved and included in a child's life.
Next thing we want to touch on is the legal obligations and the support order. So what does it mean when you get either a court order or an administrative order about child support? Those are two very important things to understand about what can be included and what normally is included. And so just the first to look at administrative orders. Now, these are orders, again, that are established by the Division of Child Support. Support enforcement officers do the work needed to create administrative orders. So what's included? What are the obligations? They can require financial and or medical support. So we're looking at, i.e. child support. What is the monthly obligation? What is the non-custodial parent required to pay on a monthly basis? Sometimes administrative orders, when they're first established, can come with a judgment. So, backdating a few months of when child support should have been owed or paid. And then also just medical coverage, making sure the child has medical coverage. And so administrative orders can state who is responsible for medical expenses and what proportion they are responsible for any medical bills that come in the future. Also, administrative orders can also help with addressing childcare. If childcare is established after an administrative order is first filed, a parent does have the right to apply for a new order to be established that's going to address childcare, so that childcare can be taken care of, so that the child, is very well taken care of. When it comes to court orders, it's going to be different. Almost anything can go if the judge agrees. So judges in court orders, judges are going to establish what's required, what the limits are, and what it's going to look like moving forward with certain termination dates. So with a court order, again, it can require financial and or medical support. It can also require in-kind support. Usually this is only like in tribal courts. And then it can address childcare, school costs, extracurricular activities if the child playing sports, claiming the child on your taxes. Secondary support is after the child has turned 18 and graduated from high school, but is continue on to college. So that can cover that as well. And very similar things. So again, you can see the difference with the court order. There's more opportunity to cover basis for future support needed for the child.
One of the things we hear very frequently, and it's a very touchy, emotional, volatile conversation at times, is custody and visitation. Because these are things that both parties want and both parties deserve. So it's important to know that child support is totally separate from custody and visitation. Those things are in two different lanes, and one is not really allowed to affect the other. So if a parent is saying to you, you can't see your child because you didn't pay child support, that's not accurate or correct information. It can be addressed in court. So those two things don't intertwine. We at the Division of Child Support cannot address or enforce anything regarding custody or visitation. We can, however, provide you with resources to assist with solving those dilemmas around custody and visitation. Every state in the country receives a grant specifically for access and visitation. And we do provide those funds to community partners within the state of Washington to allow them to assist parents through that may have a child support obligation in mitigating or resolving their custody and visitation concerns and issues. So if you are looking for some resources to assist with that, we can provide those. You can call your support enforcement officer and or contact alternative solutions, and we can get you the resources that are available to help you with some access and visitation services. So the next thing is life happens to all of us. At every point of our life, something happens. So when your life changes, sometimes it's appropriate to look at changing the child support order to be more relevant for what your life situation is at that particular time. So anyone can request a modification at every time, at any time. However, please note that not every court or jurisdiction will agree, if it's a court order, will agree to address that modification. We are separate from the courts, so our admin orders are separate from court orders, and we can put forward your request to the courts for modification. The courts will then determine how to proceed with that, and we have very little influence on that decision. We can advocate that it is time, it meets all the criteria, and would they be able to take this, but it's their final decision about whether to proceed with that modification or not. As far as jurisdiction, that would be either the location of where the order was issued, or the location and or the location of the parties involved with that. One of the things that you need to be aware of is that modifications can be unpredictable. Your income may have gone down for a short period of time, or you may have lost a job for a short period of time. However, that does not mean that your child support obligation will go down. Each year, the statute and the information regarding how child support is established and what minimum might look like changes based on what's going on in society and what the legislators decide that should look like for that particular year. So while you may feel or really want or wish, or you may be in a current temporary situation where you feel it should decrease, please be aware that's not always the case. There is a way that you can go online and run the numbers yourself to kind of gauge whether requesting a modification is a good thing or potentially not so good for your outcome that you're wanting or desiring. The same is with a parent who is receiving child support. Please be aware if someone is looking for an increase in child support, that based on the other parent's situation, it may go down as well. So those are just some things to be aware of.
Now, the hot topic, right? Enforcement. This is where things can get touchy and dicey. And before we move on, I do want us to emphasize, because I think we forgot to say this, that what we're talking through about here with administrative orders, court orders, modification, this all pertains to the state of Washington's Division of Child Support. Each state has their own division of child support. Some states, their child support is broken down into counties. So depending on where your child support case is, some of what we're talking about may not pertain to your case, unfortunately. So it's very important to understand who has control or who is, enforcing your child support and is running your case. So that's something I just want to say, especially when we get here into enforcement. So let's talk about enforcement, because that's one of the main topics for this presentation, because, as we named it, empowerment with enforcement. So the goal of enforcement is to collect child supports on a regular basis as ordered either by the court or your administrative child support order. That's the main goal of the enforcement, as well as to get health insurance and access to health care for the child. Those are the goals. But mainly, obviously, it's to collect the child support, the money that's needed to help raise the child. A couple things to understand about what is automatic when it comes to enforcement when you have a child support case. Most of the times, wage withholdings are automatic. In fact, a lot of times it's written into the court order or even the administrative order. It says payments will be collected from employers through the Washington State Support Registry. It's in the order itself. A lot of times people some parents do get upset. Why did you have to let my employer know? Why couldn't you have worked with me? Because we're directed by the order itself. So that's important to understand. Filing liens, again, automatic. Washington state laws regarding child support and the process states that, after back support gets to a certain level, liens are automatic. Same thing with debt registry, credit reporting. Anytime somebody has an arrears or back support of more than 1,000, it gets reported. Any lottery winnings that's over $600, that becomes subject to garnishment to help pay any child support that you have that's due or past due. So a lot of these are automatic that happen. Our systems a lot of times is designed to automatically do some of these actions. So this is why we get into communication and we talk about communicating with your support enforcement officer or the caseworker on your child support case to make sure that there's an understanding, because sometimes our systems, they're connected. And so if there's a report from an employer saying you're going to start working for them or you have started working for them, the computer automatically is going to send out a garnishment. So again, communication is very key to understanding what's happening to your case or what could possibly happen to your case. And then there's more, like there's some other standards enforcement actions. So there's a referral to appropriate jurisdictions. So depending on which state has jurisdiction, sometimes a case can be what we call intergovernmental case, where we work with another state to help collect on your child support to enforce your order. Suspension of licenses in the state of Washington, bank account collections, vehicle liens or seizures. So it's not seizures, it's not just property liens, it's vehicle liens as well. After a certain amount of time of no communication or payments, there's a possibility of contempt of court being filed against the person. And then obviously we all know IRS refunds can be intercepted. So you can see here that there's many different actions that are possible when you have a child support case if there's not communication or if there's not payments coming in.
So we do have some advice that we're hoping will be helpful for you. Pay your child support. If you're absolutely able to make any form of a payment on your child support, please do so. Make sure that you're keeping your information up to date. If they're reaching out to you to try and connect with you about something that may or may not be happening on your case, they have no way to reach you. You're kind of out of the loop, and a lot of things will happen default. If we're not able to connect with you, the system and or the courts sometimes will do default things. They will feel like they had given you an opportunity to respond to something. You may not have gotten the mail because you moved and we don't have a new address, but we sent it to where we believed you were staying. And so because you didn't respond, they'll default something. And we never want that to happen if at all possible. And Mike mentioned communication. Contacting DCS or Division of Child Support is huge for things that can happen on your case. Letting us know that you lost a job. Those kinds of things. A lot of the automatic things that Mike listed that happen can be avoided if we're aware of what's going on in your life at that point. If we know you lost your job and you're applying for unemployment, or you start another job in a week and a half, whatever it might be, we can work with you on setting that wage withhold that's sent out versus letting the computer do one at 3 a.m. when no one's there to stop it for a horribly huge amount that's going to hurt everyone and is not going to produce any good outcomes at all. So good communication is something that is huge and can avoid a lot of the things that are seen as not productive in not only receiving a child support payments, but in you being able to have yourself be sustainable in your life as well.
So now knowing what enforcement actions are possible, here's the empowerment part, right? It's because a lot of people don't know what their rights or what their options are when it comes to child support. Conference board is going to be your main option. A conference board, you can think of it like a administrative review process, or a complaint or grievance process, or an appeal process. Anytime that there's something that you want looked at, or you don't think is right with your case, or you have questions about, or maybe you want to see if something could be done other than a modification, because a modification obviously has its process. Basically, what you're going to do is you want to ask for a conference board, somebody to review an issue that you have with your case to see if that matter can be resolved. Some of the things that can be reviewed include enforcement actions. So if you think your driver's license shouldn't have been suspended, another big one that we get a lot of times is passports being denied, right? So people request that gets overturned so that they can get their passport. It's going to go through a conference board process to decide any he said, she said issues that may have occurred on your case, or to respond to any complaint not resolved by your support enforcement officer or your caseworker, or their supervisor. So pretty much what you would want to do is request a conference board. Now, some of the times you're going to have to come out and say that you're requesting a conference board. Some of the times you won't, but just be aware that ultimately, whenever there is an issue you have with your case that you feel needs to be reviewed or looked at, or that you have information that may change its standings, conference board is what you would like to request.
Before you move on, Michael,
Yeah.
there's a question in the chat about conference boards. Is there a limitation on how often a person can seek that channel?
Technically, no, but unless, I mean, if you're asking for a conference board for the same thing over and over, it's very important. And this is something that that we were going to touch on here a little bit, is that you have to provide support, evidence, something that's going to help prove your stance on the issue or the matter. So let's say you request a conference board for your driver's license release, and then it gets denied the first time. Can you request it again? Yes. But unless you have some new proof or some new evidence that kind of shows how that's a hardship for you or why it shouldn't have happened, it's pretty much going to come out to the same conclusion again. So you really have to understand that when you request a conference board, you become part of the process, and you have to be able to contribute either some sort of documentation, some sort of evidence, or even a write-up of the situation that you're in on, and why this is a hardship. There's got to be some work done there by the parent as to provide information, evidence, or whatever, however you want to phrase it, as to why that the decision should go your way.
Thanks.
Yep, not a problem. So usually with conference boards, the big one is debt forgiveness, debt write-off. A lot of parents will request a conference board stating the debt is incorrect, or maybe the debt's just too much. It's creating a financial hardship. So a couple things to know, because this is the main one that we get a majority of the time. A write-off for forgiveness or debt is only allowed for debt that is owed to the state of Washington. There's two types of back support owed. There's back support owed to the custodial parent. The parent has custody of the child, and then also owed to the state. The only one that we as a division of child support can forgive is any debt owed to the state. So that's the first thing. So another good thing to understand is, if you have a child support case and there's debt, is understanding or getting a breakdown of that debt in the state of Washington. What does it look like? How much is owed to the custodial parent? How much is owed to the state, if any is owed to the state? So a couple of things. A conference board, when they chairperson, when they get a request for any debt forgiveness, they're going to look at a couple of things. The first thing they're going to look at is the debt appropriate. Was when the order was it established for a correct amount? And was there any modifications? So they're going to look at the history of the case on what's owed. Then they're going to look at, is there any hardship to repayment? So again, this is where it becomes very helpful for the parent to submit any kind of documentation. Because if a parent says, well, I got huge medical debt, provide copies of your medical bills to show proof or evidence. So the conference board chairperson is going to look at that to see, okay, is this creating a hardship? They're also going to look at what is the potential to collect the debt. A lot of times, if a parent, maybe has a disability, isn't able to work, they're going to take that into consideration, because as an agency, we don't want to continually try to ask somebody for payments who's not able to have income to go out there and work. So it becomes what they call uncollectible debt. It's not going to happen. Or has other child support debt been forgiven in the past? If debt has been forgiven in the past, they take that into consideration. Because usually when they forgive that, the hope or the anticipation is that moving forward, since something has already been forgiven, that it won't be as much of a burden. So that it'd be easier for the parent moving forward to continue to pay child support.
So what happens if someone is unable to pay their child support for whatever reason? They have barriers. There's some mental health issues. Yeah,
Tina, before you go on to
sure.
alternative solutions, there's another question about debt. So if debt is owed to the parent and to the state, is the parent prioritized, and does that debt to the state carry the same weight?
I guess that would depend on from what perspective you're looking. When we collect support and payments go out the door, the parent is paid first. State debt gets paid after everything is owed to the parent is paid. And as far as write-off is concerned, or potential conference boards to address the debt, state debt can be forgiven because it's owed to us. We cannot address anything owed to the other parent. The other parent owns that debt. And so any support coming in at that point would obviously go out to the parent if state debt was forgiven. Did they have anything further they wanted to jump into, or more?
Yeah, before you
specific?
switch gears here,
Yeah.
thank you, Jill and Janelle, for stepping into questions that have come up about establishing parentage. Jeanette, did that help? Do you have any further questions? And I did also put in the chat, we did a whole session that Jill and Bridget Pierce and one of our other prosecuting attorneys did on establishing parentage. It's really, really well done. So if you have questions, more questions, that might also be another way. But Jeanette, did those answers from those two individuals help you out with your question?
I want to say yes and no. My second, my first question was about parentage. If the dad's not there and the mom is unlocatable, how would he go about getting paternity established if the mom is not willing to participate? That was one. And then for the second one was the conference boards. Will you still do a conference board if there's a split debt going on, meaning there's money going to the mom and there's money owed to the state? If someone asks for a conference board on their arrears, I did hear you say mom is paid first. So will you still offer a conference board for the state debt, a forgiveness of the state debt, even though there's money owed to the mom? Will you still do that?
Yes, ma'am. They can definitely request a conference board for a past due that might be owed to the state. They would need to show that there is some type of burden with that debt, whatever that situation might be for that individual. And we do have situations where the state debt has been forgiven whilst arrears are still owed to the parent. And sometimes it's a resolution where it allows them then to concentrate on paying for the parent only, and alleviate some of that stress or that credit or whatever it might be that's blocking them from being able to move forward and address the parental debt in an easier or more efficient manner. So it does not always happen that the conference board chair will allow it, but we do put them through, and there are situations where that has occurred. So yes, you can definitely request a conference board for that.
Okay, one other one, Tina, before you move on to alt-sol. So I'm guessing, Mark, when you say long-term incarceration is a big one, you're talking about LFOs that include legal financial obligations that include child support. Are you talking about an order that wasn't modified during incarceration? And how do you remedy that? Because overall legal financial obligations owed to corrections can be modified, but I'm not sure what your point or your question was.
I think I can help there.
Okay, thank you.
Currently, there's an abatement in place when someone enters prison so that they don't collect large arrears. However, that's a fairly recent thing that has occurred. Previously, there was no stoppage to child support owed while someone was incarcerated, and a large amount of debt and arrears could accumulate while they were there. And yes, you are able to request a conference board for debt that would be owed to the state during that particular time. And we do see times where that is forgiven, which is why we now have the abatement that's in the orders when someone becomes long-term incarcerated, that there is a abatement of a certain amount of child support owed. So yes, you can request a conference board for that. It is not considered an LFO. It is totally a separate issue. The LFOs are on one side, child support's a totally different bucket, but you can request a conference board on that for debt owed to the state.
Thanks, Tina. And when did the law change?
I want to say 2 years now it's
Yeah,
been.
right. Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks, Mark, for your comment or question there. All right. I think we're good to go.
Okay.
February
Thank you.
2021, Laura says.
Oh, there you go. It's been
There
more
you
than
go.
2. But yes, thank you. Okay, so thank you all for the wonderful questions. Please feel free to keep typing them in there. So when a parent is unable to pay for facing whatever barriers, whether it is something like they were recently released from incarceration, or they may have some mental health or other addictive issues that they need to address, or just finding a job is difficult, or they become disabled, whatever the barriers might be, housing could be a problem. What do you do? Well, we have 2 programs through the Division of Child Support. Yes, we do. We have 2 programs in the Division of Child Support that want to assist you. And I know that sounds very weird to those of you that have had some run-ins with the child support process previously, but yes, we do. One of those is called the PrEP, or the Partnership for Reemployment Program, and one of them is Alternative Solutions. So I'm going to touch on these programs and get you guys some more information on how we would like to assist you with those things. So the first one is PrEP, Partnership for Reemployment Program. This is a partnership between the Division of Child Support and the WorkSource office in Spokane, particularly. We did have another program, but because of staffing changes with WorkSource, we are now only in Spokane area with the PrEP program. And this is set to help parents who are in need of employment. So the WorkSource program, they provide the one-on-one coaching, job referrals, resume assistance, and some support services that they have available through WorkSource that can help you prepare, prep, and get ready for applying for those jobs, interviewing for those jobs, and those kinds of things. So this is what a WorkSource services would normally be provided to someone. However, it's done on a one-on-one basis. So you get independent one-on-one time with a coach to help work you through those processes. And the Division of Child Support's portion of this process is that we can look at reducing or modifying your child support payments, whether for a limited amount of time while you go through that program, or longer term if appropriate. And we can assist with overcoming additional barriers, which is part of what the Alternative Solutions program participates in as well. So other barriers such as transportation or childcare, those kinds of things are the things that we can help support with on our end. So it is a partnership with WorkSource. It is the PrEP program. If at any time you're thinking this would be a good fit for yourself or a parent you're working with, you can contact the Division of Child Support and ask about PrEP, and they should be able to refer you over to our liaison and representative on our end to help you with that program. The next program that we're going to look at is alternative solutions. Not that I'm prejudiced or anything, but it is pretty awesome. So basically back in 2014, we started a statewide initiative where we're working with parents who were unable to pay their child support for a majority of reasons. It started out as concentrating on employment and helping connect parents to employment resources. However, while doing that, we were able to learn that employment, if someone is unemployed, there's really an underlying reason for that. And so those underlying issues, if they weren't addressed, employment was still kind of a far-fetched dream for long term. And so we needed to look at helping them overcome their everyday barriers, whether it was homelessness and housing, or transportation, or childcare, or dependency of some kind, mental health, disability things, any and all of those barriers that can lead to reoccurring or long-term unemployment needed to be addressed in order to support a lot of parents in becoming employed. So we started the program, and it has been going for 11 years now. And we have served almost 9,000 parents and have provided over 43,000 resources.
So a little bit about what we do in alternative solutions. So when a parent is calls to refer into our program, a few of the things we do is we do connections. We connect them to community-based resources. So a parent could call in for multiple reasons or various different reasons, whether, like Tina said, employment, legal, housing. So what we do is we have developed a database with over 4,500 statewide resources, or resources within the state, that can help them address those barriers and hopefully remove those barriers. So what we would do is we would talk to the parent about their current situation and find out what's going on, and then provide them the information they need to connect with those resources to hopefully get themselves in a better situation. While we're working on them, we can also talk to them about their child support case and see if there's any actions that can be taken, or even just provide them with as much information as possible so they understand what's going on with their case. We do a lot of re-engagements of parents with child support. A lot of the parents that refer into our program will tell us, I just haven't addressed child support. I've been, life happens, stuff's going on, so I just haven't. And now I'm trying to get they're trying to get things back together, get things on track. Child support's one of those things. So working with us is a good way for parents to re-engage in the child support and get back on track. We do a lot of community outreach. Besides presentations, you may see some of our staff out at a resource fair, job fair, fatherhood cafes. There's a lot of different outreach events that we do. And then we do individualized case management. So each case we understand is different. Everybody's different. Everybody's situation is different. So we really try to take a very centric approach to that person to make sure that we provide them the best service possible. Tina already mentioned some of these numbers, but again, just want to share in our almost 11 years of existence, we have worked with 8,693 parents. 76% of the parents that engaged with us have removed a barrier or barriers. 649 have found employment. The important thing to know about that number, it seems kind of off from the 8,000, but not that full 8,000 is always seeking employment. And then we do get a lot of parents who come back. One of the things that we've really looked at and trying to address is, it's not just about helping somebody find a job, right? It's about helping someone find a career that's going to be able to support what they want in life, right? And so that's a little bit more difficult than just helping somebody find a job. We've helped get 848 modifications initiated. We've provided over 43,104 resources. And overall, we have helped reduce child support debt by $4,753,026.
So what kind of a parent is a good for our program? So we have this lovely triangle here. And as you can see, a large majority, over 60%, 60 to 65% there at the bottom, are paying. A majority of those are done through the automated wage withholding. So they're not having any issues. They're employed and things are going fine for them. At the very top, we have a small percentage that are evading. Those are the parents who have the funds or the ability to address the child support obligation and choose not to, are determined for whatever reason that they're not going to do it. We're looking at those, working with those in the middle. They're struggling and they're needing the help. They want to address their child support obligation. They want to be involved in their child's life. They want to be able to connect with them and or make sure that their needs are being met. But because of life happens situations for them, they're just not able to do so at the time. So those are the parents that we are looking to work with in alternative solutions. Parents have to be in a place where they're ready to take that next step. For example, if we do voluntary, it needs to be them volunteering and referring into the program. Whereas if it's mandated to them by court or something to that effect, they're not always ready to take the steps necessary to make the change that might be needed. So this is something where parents really want to take that next step. They're walking into a partnering community-based organization because they're wanting help with something to improve their life. And child support is something that they're needing to work with. If they're already in there with partners and they're already saying, oh, I need to make these changes in my life and I'm ready to make those connections or do the work that's necessary to do that, those are the parents that we really want to assist and work with to try and assist them through that. And some of the barriers and community connections that we have assisted parents with, these are the top 10 resources that have been provided from 2014 when we first started the program all the way through the end of last month. So April or May, March. Yeah, the end of last month. As you can see, the top ones were employment, housing, and basic needs. However, if you notice, child support is also still within that top 5. So child support can also be a barrier, and we want to recognize that, and we want to assist parents with that as well. And you can see that 4,067 times we've assisted parents with some sort of a child support barrier to them being able to move forward in their life.
So, who's eligible to participate in the Alternative Solutions program? Let's break it down. We do have a few requirements. The first is they must have an open child support case in the state of Washington. Again, remember, it's always very important to know who your child support case is with, which state, so that way you can understand or look up or begin researching the laws and regulations and rules and options. But for this program in particular, our program, you do have to have a case opened in the state of Washington. You must be the paying parent. The non-custodial parent is a term that our agency uses right now, but you must be the paying parent. You must live in the state of Washington. That's another important one. Our database, I did say that we had over 4,500. 99.99% of them are in the state of Washington. Our expertise as far as what resources are available is limited to the state of Washington. Yes, we have a few resources in our database that are in Portland, Oregon, or Hermiston, Oregon, or Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but it's very, very small. Again, our expertise and our ability to direct people is going to be limited to the state of Washington. If somebody doesn't meet those, in particular, those 3 requirements, like let's say, and this has happened where we received a phone call from somebody, but their child support case is in New York, or Oregon, or Idaho, like it's all over. And they're living in the state of Washington, we would still provide them with some resources. We would still go into our database for them and try to find them and get them the help that they need. But again, we wouldn't be able to take their case on, and we might be very limited as far as if they had any questions about child support, because it would be a different state. So we would direct them to contact the state that controls or has their child support case. If a custodial parent calls into our program, again, we wouldn't take their case on, but we would provide resources. We would provide information. We would still say, here are some resources for you, contact them, or if they had questions about their case or just needed some basic information, we're happy to help as much as possible there as well. Now, the next three requirements, they must be willing to participate in this program. This is a very important part of our program. Our philosophy is building capacity. What we're trying to do is help parents have the capacity to navigate, whether it's, state agencies or just what's available in their community, to get the help that they need. So as we're first time working with a parent, we're really trying to work with them and coach them on, this is where you would go. These are some of the questions you would ask. This is some of the information they're probably going to need. So let's have you prepared. We're really trying to help a parent understand and prep and plan for that. Because like we've said multiple times, life happens. If they ever find themselves in a situation like this again, where they need help, at least they know right away that they would be able to take action and not have to wait for a program like us, Alternative Solutions, to help them. They're going to know, oh, they taught me that I can call this program or this I need to make sure I have all this information up to date so I can get the help I need in a timely manner. Another requirement is they must be facing barriers outside of child support, whether that's employment, legal, medical help. There has to be something outside of child support. An important thing to know about our program and our program specialists, our caseworkers and our team, is that there's nothing we can do that's special in child support. Everything that our team can do, a support enforcement officer out in the field, they can do as well. And it's important to understand that we always try to help build relationships. We're trying to make sure that these parents that are, could use our services are understanding that relationships are very important, communication is very important in child support. Our program is temporary. We are not a program that someone can spend years in. We're meant really, the main focus is about 6 months is the goal, to have a parent with us and then have them in a good spot. But their caseworker, their support enforcement officer, that is long-term. So we never want to get in between. So we always try to make sure there's good relationship and there's that trust built there. So if a parent calls in and all they need help with is child support, we'll provide them information, we'll answer all of their questions, and then we'll transfer them to their support enforcement officer so they can work with them on their case. So that's another really important one. And then last, they need to have an established form of communication, either a cell phone or an email. If a parent calls in to refer with us and they don't have either, we will provide them with information on either how to obtain a government phone or on how to set up an email account using a local library or somewhere that offers free computer and internet services. It's very important that we have communication because, again, program is not a long-term. And there are action items that need to be done by the parent. And so we want to make sure that we're able to communicate with them and get them resources in a timely manner. I'll give you an example. If a parent's looking for employment and we know of a job fair that's happening in 2 days, we find out about one, we're going to contact that parent right away so to make sure that they may be able to attend. So if we don't have a form of communication, either a phone or email, then participation in the program is very difficult and it's almost impossible, because if we try to do regular mail, that takes too long. And then we don't have offices in every single city or town in the state. So those are very important things. Some instances where we will not open a full case in our program, incarcerated parents or parents in inpatient treatment that are more than 30 days from release. And again, the reason why is because we establish a plan of action. There's items that parents are required to engage in order to stay in the program. And if they're not in a situation where they can do that, if they're incarcerated and they still have more than 30 days, or if they're in a treatment facility and they have more than 30 days, what we'll tell them is, when you have less than 30 days to go before your release, please contact us, and then we can start working with you then. And then any parents that are living outside of the state of Washington, like I said, our expertise and our database is limited to the state of Washington. Now, referring a parent to alternative solutions. It's very simple, very easy. All it takes from the parent is a phone call or an email. Now here's the important thing. In our 11 years now of being a program that's worked with parents, we have found that we have a way higher chance of success of working with a parent if the parent calls or emails to refer themselves into the program. And the reason why is because that first step is always the hardest one, right? Whether it's that first step in asking for help or it's that first step in communicating with a new program, that's always the hardest step. And again, in our program, we're coaching and helping to build that capacity in parents. And so they gotta do some of the work, right? And so with that, we have found that they're more successful, that they're able to get themselves in a better situation if they take that first step to refer into our program, right? Because it's never easy. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't take referrals from our community partners or even, our sister agencies. We will. But please, if you do send a referral directly to us, please let that parent know you did, because there's a lot of times too where we'll call the parent and they'll have no idea who we are or why we're calling them. And so that's a little awkward, but we're still going to do it. We're going to reach out. We're going to try and help everybody that we can. But what our numbers have shown us is that we are more successful when the parent's the one that either picks up that phone to call us or hits send on that email requesting our help and to participate in our program.
Okay, so now go ahead. I'm sorry.
Tina, before
Yes,
you
ma'am.
go to the map, can I ask a couple referral questions that have come through?
Most definitely.
Okay, so one is that we hear from fathers that we talk to across the state that one of the ways they really get support is by being in dads groups. So it's a curriculum-based program or informal dads groups. Do you guys refer to those kinds of groups? Because then it is sort of the peer mentoring and getting support from other fathers. Do you have those in your network?
We most definitely do.
Okay.
And if that is a need that we're able to identify during our conversations with the father, we will most definitely do a referral over.
I think one thing to touch on really quick with in inclusion to that is to understand when we're working with a parent, we do make a lot of suggestions, but ultimately the direction that we go with the parent in the program is directed by the parent. We're going to follow their lead. So we will always mention, if they're talking about needing support as a dad or not feeling that there's any support for them, we will suggest all of the dad support groups that we are aware of that we have in our database. Whether or not we send them or any other resources is directed by the parent on what they want to address with their time with us.
Right. And the reason I asked, Mike, is because, as you know, when we did our study this last year and we asked dads about, do they feel like they have connections? Do they know where to turn? A very small number, a very small percentage said that they had someone to talk to. And then when we asked what some of the barriers are, they say, well, there are no services for dads. And so I'm just trying to get at the opportunity to educate people that there are resources. There aren't enough. I'm absolutely not saying that we
Agreed.
have a good both geographic and cultural diversity of resources. And that's something that as a council, we're really working on. But there are groups out there, and the more we let people know about it, the more demand, maybe the more we can tilt that wheel a little bit in the right direction. So that was one question. And then maybe you're going to get to it, and I've jumped the gun on this second one, but if you've got folks in this audience that would like to be added to your database, are you going to touch on how they do that?
I can
Yeah,
certainly share that information.
yeah, that it's simple and easy. Yes, we can definitely do that.
Okay, just making sure. I want to make sure that folks can get connected to you. And then the last one is if they're looking for something in a community and it's not in your database, do you have a strong partnership then with 211 or other folks who do referral that you'll send them to?
If we are hunting for a resource and are unable to locate one, we have connections in a lot of the communities with community partners that we frequently work with or refer to, and we would contact them. We would potentially search through 211 as well. We do anything and everything that we can to particularly find a specific resource that a parent might need or that would benefit them more than something that we have available.
Right.
So yes, we will network until we can find something that will meet the need.
Yeah.
And then another thing we do have is because a lot of when and we're going to touch on this a little bit about our database, is that we have it broken down by county and then in some instances city for resources, but sometimes we do also have a list of statewide resources that aren't particular to one county, and so we're able to also search that. So we have different avenues, and we, like Tina said, we try to turn over every single rock possible, and if you know of a rock that we haven't turned over, please let us know so we can add it.
Yeah, and I think our updated father-friendly resource database got to you after the study, but Tina, let me know if it hasn't so that we can get
Okay.
you data.
We will
Updated.
do. I will definitely double check.
Yeah, if
And
you
yeah,
could,
we have been able to find some really specific resources. There was a need for a vegetarian resource for food in the Seattle area, and we were able to actually locate a food truck that also will do donations. That's vegetarian and vegan in the Seattle area. So we are able to find some of those things that are not as prevalent as others. We will do
Yeah.
everything possible to do that.
I mean, the challenge here is the same challenge that anyone has accessing resources, which is that there are a lot of people that are in the information and referral business, and there are a lot of different database resources and a lot of different ways that we slice and dice that community data, and that makes it super hard for people to find what they need. And that's something that as a state, we're working on, but connectors know how to connect, and you guys are a connector, so that's super important. And then the other thing that I'm going to just note, and then Tina's going to show you how their database works. The council has a map of resources that are very specific to fathers' needs. So these aren't general resources that sometimes serve dads, but ones that are really focused on fatherhood needs. And so I'm going to pop that in the chat too. It's our father-friendly resource map. And it will be incorporated into this alternative solutions map, but I'm guessing it might, the updated version may not be there yet. So just to let you know, and people are also putting other resources in the chat. So anyway, thank you for letting me jump in with that. And then let's take a look at your portal.
Okay. So we have an internal database of, like we said, over 4,500 resources. We took all of those that were appropriate and have presented them in a external site that anyone with a cell phone or an internet connection can actually access. We will let you know that there are some resources that we have internally that are not transferable to this. Some of those include domestic violence shelters. We don't want those addresses publicly known. So those are not provided in here. Some of them are a few of the statewide resources that are available may not have been acceptable to transfer over either. So while this is as comprehensive as we can publicly make it, please note there are a few that we did not. And like I said, this is available for anyone that has an internet connection, whether it's on their phone or their laptop. And this actually is what you can type in to find it: DSHS, DCS Community Resources. And as soon as I can find my mouse again here, it disappeared on me. There we go. It will take a moment to load at times, so please be patient. But this is very easy to access. You can type in anything as simple as a zip code. I'm going to put in Vancouver, and it will take me to Vancouver. As you can see, the menu on the right-hand side, if it does not automatically pop up, you can click on the menu and it will pop up resources that are available in that particular area. There's a help button, so it can help you. There's a button here that will do it based on your location.
I'm not seeing anything beyond the static map.
Uh-oh.
I
Okay,
think
let me move.
I think your PowerPoint is still up, maybe, rather than your browser. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's not helpful.
I don't know. Yeah, think I'm looking at your PowerPoint slide, but I can't tell.
Okay, does it show you university place in the middle?
No, it's the whole state.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not sharing them.
I think you might have to end the PowerPoint slideshow to show.
Okay. We will shrink this down and go back to the other one really quick. How about now? Whoops.
Yeah, just go ahead and share your portal now. While she's doing that, Dieter is popping up the feedback tool that we would love to have your feedback around the, there you go, around the session. So that is there for your opportunity to share while we're ending the session. There you go. You're good.
Okay, perfect. So across the top blue bar, you could type in your address, a specific address, a zip code, a city, any of those things, and it will pop that up based on that. The small circle next to it will allow it, if you're walking down the road with your cell phone, you can just hit that button and it'll find your location on there, and therefore pull up any resources that might be around you. And then there's a help button. When you first open the screen, on the top corner here on the right hand side is a menu. When you type in your address, sometimes this will automatically pop up for you. And we have the resources categorized. As you can see, there's basic needs here in the university place area. You can get directions. If you're going by car, this will take you to Google, and it'll connect you with directions, whether you're on a bus, walking, or in a car type of situation. But if you were to click on it, it will also give you additional information. It will provide you with an address, a phone number, give you a brief description of what it is that particular resource can provide. It will also tell you if there's any costs. Some of them have sliding scale fees, those kinds of things, whether it's near public transportation or not. So if someone needs to take a bus, and whether they offer translation services for someone who may not be English speaking. So those are available. It will tell you how far away it is, and it will give you all of the information that you need for what that looks like. Some of them, for example, food banks sometimes will only serve certain zip codes in the area that they serve, and or they may only be available on Tuesday and Thursday, those kinds of things. So all of that information would be available in here. And you can change whatever category it is you're looking for. Basic needs, employment, training, education, all of the legal, all of the resources that are available within that area will then show up here based on the category. You can also change the distance. We have it right now, currently it defaults to 3 miles. But as you can see, at 7 miles, you have a lot more options to choose from. So you can extend or shrink the area that you're looking at on the map here. So that is where that ends up with for the GIS thing. And so I'm going to bear with me for just a moment. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint because that will give you our information on where and how to connect with us. So one moment here. Oops.
Tina, while you're flipping back over, Mike, maybe you could talk about what happens if it is a statewide resource, like I'm thinking about a fatherhood group that serves multiple counties. How do you GIS map that?
Oh, I wish Tina didn't take that
Oh,
down.
I'm here.
Tina,
I just didn't want to
okay.
distract her while she was trying to get the PowerPoint back up.
I'm here. Yeah, the GIS on that is impossible pretty much because you have to have a longitude and latitude. And if it's a statewide resource, there is no logistical pinpoint address for some of them for us to be able to put it on the map, is what it comes down to. Logistics thing.
Yeah. So what we would recommend in that case, if somebody's just not able to find anything, they can call us and we can search our database for the statewide. That's one of the limitations that we face. You know, obviously we wish things were different, but what the programs that we're working with as far as software and technology and stuff like that, we're kind of limited there.
Yeah.
But it would. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it'd be a simple phone call, which leads us to our next slide. Our contact information. This is actually a good transition.
Did you have something else, Anne, before I transition?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll finish that thought after you guys get people connected.
Okay. And if a statewide resource has a physical location in the state of Washington, it will be on the map or should be on the map. So in order to have a parent or help a parent self-refer to our program, we can either be contacted by phone, fax, if you wanted to fax over a referral form as a partnering agency, or email. Both of those things are manned and should hopefully get a response very quickly. Someone should answer the phone when you call or a parent calls. And emails are returned very quickly with an initial contact on how to connect with you. If you are a partnering agency and a parent comes in to sit down to address something else and child support becomes an issue, feel free while the parent is sitting with you to say, let's call them now. We'll call them together. And we can obviously have someone there to help right away. If you are working with a parent also on some things, and we don't want to overweigh a parent with resourcing or with things that we're asking a parent to do, and so you want to communicate directly with the program specialist on our team that might be working with the parent, we can get a release from you. You can provide a release that the parent has signed off on, allowing us to speak with you and share information about what we're doing so we're on the same page and supporting the parent. So please note that is possible, but a release will need to be signed by the parent. And
also, Tina, can you go back?
okay.
Sorry.
Oh, certainly. Go right ahead.
Also, for the question was is if how can you get on our database or make sure that your the resource or your program is on our database. You can also call this number or email us and let us know that your program is available, where your services are, and basic information, and hopefully a phone number. So if we have any questions, we can contact you to ask the questions, to fill in the information that we need as well. So all information can flow through the phone numbers or email address here. Also, like I said, one of the big things we do is outreach. If you feel like you're having an event and you could really use alternative solutions there to help provide information and support for the community, please contact us. I also posted my phone number and email address on the chat for anybody that you can also just reach out to me directly. We're happy to share and just get information out and be available, whether that's to your staff with a presentation such as this, or even to the community that you're working with. We're always happy to get out as much information and meet you where you're at as much as we can.
And please know, if you're a community-based organization and would like to be in the database, we do work with low income. The goal of the database is to work with lower income parents. So large for-profit agencies would not necessarily be a good fit for our database, with large charges and or fees to the parents that we're working with. They would have no way to be able to afford to do that. So please feel free to let us know if you'd like to be included. Like Mike said, we would be glad and happy to have you. Okay.
Other questions? Jeanette is sending 4 hearts, not 1, but 4.
Thank you. We love you too.
Much appreciated.
There was a question when you were talking about the pilot project in Spokane about, is that the only county where that exists? And I assume it is, because that's where you said it exists.
Yeah, that is the only place at this point in time. We did have it in another place, and due to staffing turnover at the workforce office, it was not able to continue. We are interested in the future in looking and expanding that, and have looked at those options. But at this point, state budgeting concerns and issues have been something that's come up frequently as a blockade to that at this point. But we do hope in the future to be able to expand that program or something similar.
And you have someone that's inspired by your cool work and saying, are you hiring?
I wish. We would love to have everybody doing this with us.
Yes. Anybody that's committed to serve, we want you.
Yeah, well, state hiring, is in an interesting place right now. I'll just say that,
yes.
Jeremiah. Although I do know that there are certain positions within the state that are almost always open because there's such a need and such turnover. Other questions about child support in general or alternative solutions specifically? If you have a specific case question, we pretty much need to do that offline.
And we wouldn't be able to answer that without some kind of release. We can answer in general terms.
Case specific questions. Call your support enforcement officer.
Mm-hmm.
All roads lead back to good communication. I know when we did our session with our prosecuting attorneys about the work that they do around child support, they just really drilled that home, is just make contact, because then we can problem solve with you and work on how to resolve issues. So I'm channeling that wonderful group of people who we have on the council and connected to this work.
Yes.
So
communication is key.
Okay, here's a question though about VA. Can VA money be garnered for child support?
It depends on the situation, but basically in general, yes. Veterans pay can be, and sometimes in some cases, it can assist with getting dependent benefits in place as well for the children. So it is a long, not fun process for anyone to go through, but it is possible.
Any other questions for these wonderful people? It is a wonderful service. What I'm excited about is the day that we get to have the volume of support enforcement officers, that everyone that you call at the child support division is an alternative solutions person. that is just the way that we do.
We would love to work ourselves out of jobs.
Wouldn't that be cool, Tina? Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be wonderful. That would be.
So thank you. Lots of love coming to you in the chat for this great service. We completely agree. And thank you for the general kind of child support 101 overview. It's always helpful. Always a complicated system, and lots of folks with lots of questions about how that works. And the big one that you addressed did come through in a question at the beginning, so I didn't re-ask it, but I'm just going to underscore this because this comes up constantly in our community conversations around, well, she doesn't let me see the kids, so why should I pay child support? And really, your court case and your parenting plan and your visitation and custody is absolutely not linked to child support. And that feels wrong. It feels frustrating. And I do understand that, but they are not connected in any way.
They are, yeah, unfortunately, they are not. However, you do have the ability. If you were not to pay child support, you could potentially end up in court for contempt. On the other hand, if you're not allowed to see your child when you're meeting all of the needs that need to be, they also can end up in contempt for contempt. So it is something that you're able to pursue through court, and they can be held in contempt if they're not abiding by any visitation outline that may have been made.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not saying don't pursue it, but
Yeah.
don't get in trouble with child support because of it. That's what I'm
Yes.
trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely pursue it.
No, yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
So last question, I think, and this is about IRS refund money. Is that also garnishable?
Mike, do you want to take one? I've been talking a lot. I'm okay with
Yeah, no,
answering.
IRS. So an important thing to know, IRS refunds do get intercepted. That is not an action that child support does. What happens is the IRS will check to see if you owe child support. If you do, they will send it to the Division of Child Support agency that's in charge of your case. So yes, it is garnished, but that's an important factor for people to know because it's one of those things that gets kind of, some people have some concerns or things get confused when dealing with IRS funding. So that's an important part of it, but it is.
And just
But
FYI, on current conditions, there has been much discussion in the federal government around seeking Social Security information to cross-tab it with child support. So just, it's out there in the news. I don't know if it's gonna happen, if it has happened, if it's real, but please do know that that is one of the things that may be that sacrosanct wall around Social Security information may be breached, and that may change things.
and you can, if you know you're expecting a refund through the IRS and it will cause dilemmas for your life or hardship on you, that is one of the things that
Conference
you can
board.
request a conference board for. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So lots of good feedback coming through the chat. Thank you everyone again for your allyship. It is so needed for us to create the kind of system transformation that we all know needs to happen for fathers and families. Couple things we want to get up on the radar screen. Thank you for those who have done the evaluation that Dieter put in the chat. It is super important to us. We do use it. We provide feedback to the speakers. We collect information about what you want to see for coming sessions. And we are about to do one of our really special sessions, which is an encore around incarcerated parents. And so we've done this before, that we have a very strong relationship with the Department of Corrections, and they work extremely hard to get us access to fathers that are parenting inside. And so that's going to be the session coming up in June. They are amazing parents that are working very hard to increase their skills, increase their connections, and the program that we go through is called Strengthen Families, that also provides reentry support to those parents. So this is an amazing session. I hope you all can come. We will follow it up with a session in July on reentry dads. So once fathers are back in the community, how can we all support them to be successful so they can stay in their community and be reunified with their children? So those are two that we've done back to back in the past that have been incredibly powerful. I was actually just at Stafford Creek Correctional Facility in Aberdeen yesterday, meeting with their fundraising committee. They have a group of dads, parents, actually I think they all are parents as they introduce themselves to me, who do fundraisers to support community programs. These are a group of incredibly big-hearted individuals who are saying, you know, I did things that might have harmed my community. I'm not that same person and I want to give back. So my heart was just full when I left there yesterday of these individuals who are trying to make better in their local community, being their facility, and in the broader community that they connect to. So please join us for that. And then one last thing I put in the chat, we don't have I don't know, Dieter, do we have a link on the website yet for the summit? I don't think so.
Not quite yet.
Not
We'll be
quite yet.
looking for a gov delivery that'll be coming out here soon.
Soon. Coming to an email box near you. But please save the date, September 20th. I get questions from people all the time. The last summit was so great. When is the next one? Well, in case you haven't heard, the state is broke. So we are calling this a mini summit. And those dads at Stafford Creek would like to do some fundraising to help us put this on. It just swelled my heart. I was so impressed with them. But in addition to that, we also have potential sponsorship from some other organizations. And so we'll be coming together September 20th. So mark your calendar, please think about joining us. And Celebrating Fathers will be our second year of our Dad Ally Awards. And so the next thing that you will get from us about that is the nomination form. So the last thing I will leave you with is, if you know extraordinary fathers, dads that are helping other families, other dads, please nominate them. We had an amazing group of people that were nominated last year. It was extremely difficult to make those award decisions, but you all will receive those now that you've attended one of our events. So thanks for joining us, and hope we see you next month. And it's actually a little bit drizzly here on the west side today, and our plants are happy about that. So I was going to say, have a happy sunny afternoon, but it isn't. Thanks for joining us. Come back.